top 5 best NFL free agency fits this offseason.
Let's do it.
NFL Films music, baby.
Yes, sir. So with my list, I went with all offensive players, actually. There were some good defensive players, but just decided to go with all offensive guys, have a little fun. So number 5, you want me to go 5 to 1?
Yes, we're counting them down.
All right. 5 is Kenneth Walker to the Houston Texans. If there's anybody that's going to pay for a running back, I think that Houston should do it. Take some pressure off that defense. Take some pressure off Stroud. Not ask him to do too much. Running back room with just Woody Marks is not going to cut it. Might want to take a look at the Super Bowl MVP. Number 4, I have Mike Evans to the Ravens. I think him and Zay Flowers would be the perfect 1-2 combo, pending health, obviously, for Evans. And I know he's already won, but if he wants to win again, maybe go to Baltimore instead of staying in Tampa. I think that would be a good move for him. Kyle Pitts to the Chiefs is number 3 for me. We all know what Kyle Pitts is capable of. Even if they decide to keep Kelsey, I think Andy Reid and his 2 tight end sets, I think Pitts would be very fun with Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, I have Tyreek Hill to the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan would do wonders with Tyreek Hill, put him in a little bit of a Debo role, and he wouldn't be asked to do too much. You've got McCaffrey, you've got Kittle. I think Pearsall, if he can stay healthy, is going to be a stud. So Tyreek Hill to the 49ers at 2. And last one, this is for you, Chris, Aaron Rodgers in retirement. I'm poking a little fun here, and it looks like he's going to come back now that McCarthy's the head coach there. But Aaron, you're not that guy anymore. You're not Aaron Rodgers. You don't have to do this. I know the stats were fine, and you didn't have a bad year considering the age and the offensive weapons there. But come on, man. We're not afraid anymore. Like Kevin from Home Alone said, I'm not afraid anymore.
You hear me? I'm not afraid. The Steelers should be afraid about their quarterback future. Although I tend to agree with you, Kenny, that just move on. But that's not going to happen. Rodgers will most likely be back, working with McCarthy, riding off into the sunset. Tyreek Hill to San Francisco, I don't totally hate. I do think it's going to be more a question with Hill of how healthy he is, and he may be one of those guys that gets added like right before training camp to a team or as training camp's going on after an injury takes place somewhere. Pitts to Kansas City is obviously very interesting because that could also tell me that Travis Kelce decides that he's done. Mike Evans to Baltimore. I've loved Mike Evans over the years, but it feels like we're running on fumes here. And I don't know if that's the kind of addition they necessarily need at wide receiver. I'd love to see them take a run, if I were a Ravens fan, at like a Rashid Shaheed. Kenneth Walker III to Houston is a really good call. I like it better than the Kenneth Walker III call that I have in my power rankings now, so I may steal it. But I like, for the most part, a very strong list, Kenny. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I love my list. And I'm like Kenny. Like, there's no defensive player. So, I could bore you how Trey Hendrickson can set the edge on a 4-3 defense. Like, I'm good. We're trying to create some headlines here. So, here are my 5 free agency fits. This one I actually think will happen. Malik Willis to the Dolphins. Willis, Achane, and Waddle. Like, that's kind of like a good offense there to start out with. If Miami's just totally rebuilding, like, they can score some points. And if Willis is good, that's their quarterback for the next, 5-7 years. So, Malik Willis to the Dolphins. And here's a fun one. The Buffalo Bills need wide receivers. I need to get over the hump as well. So here are 2 wide receivers I think the Bills should sign that have both won championships. Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. 1-year deals. You get Tyreek Hill probably cheap and Mike Evans for $13 million. That's like a good off. The Buffalo needs to completely tear up that room. Bring in 2 guys on 1-year deals. Maybe Tyreek Hill for another year because he's still on the younger side. So Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans to the Buffalo Bills. I thought Kenny was going to say this team for Kenneth Walker. I like Travis Etienne to the Chiefs just because he can play all 3 downs. Kenneth Walker really can't pass block and can't catch the ball. So Etienne, I like him more, and he's much more of a threat in the pass game. Chiefs desperately need a running back. Number 2 here, Kyle Pitts. Dallas Goedert might not return to the Eagles. He's on a 1-year deal. He's an unrestricted free agent. Kyle Pitts grew up an Eagles fan. He's from Philadelphia. Eagles need to get some more weapons on offense. They don't have a wide receiver 3 outside of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Kyle Pitts to the Eagles. And number 1, this is probably going to happen, but I think this is the best fit, is George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, if he comes back to Dallas, they could win the NFC East. They're one of the best teams one of the best offenses in the league. So George Pickens to the Cowboys, to me, was the obvious number 1, but that is my list.
Yeah, Pickens to Dallas, I'll be honest, I kind of took off my board just because it feels like it's going to happen. It will be ugly, and people will say things because that's what Jerry Jones and George Pickens will do. And things will be said that can never be taken back, but they'll end up back with each other in the end, even if it's just on a tag. Pitts to Philly, that could be dangerous. I really like that one. ETN to Kansas City makes a ton of sense as well. Evans and Hill both to Buffalo. That seems like something Terry Pagula would hear as he's riding in the back of a car somewhere right now. And he's like, oh, I heard somebody on the radio say it. I think it makes a ton of sense. What do you guys think about bringing in Evans and Hill? And you're going to get all the credit for it, Tyler, because Terry Pagula will latch onto it just because he recognizes the names. I like that a lot, at least for headline value, like you said. Malik Willis to Miami could be just a complete and total beautiful disaster. And also why I think I'm a fan of it. Like, you outlined it. If it all works well, he could be their quarterback for the next few years. But I think it would probably trend towards disaster. And that may be just as entertaining. So I'll sign up for that as well. Some decent lists so far. All right, I'm going to give you mine. My top 5 power rankings for the best NFL free agency fits this offseason. And I did include defensive players. I'm sorry to take some of the fun out of it, but I did. I'm going to start at number 5 with a defensive player. Guys who win Super Bowls, their market gets overheated. And they're looked at as maybe a little bit better than they are in some cases. I don't know if that's the case with this guy or not, but I know Baltimore has been on a hamster wheel at the cornerback position for the last several years, and Reek Woolen is a free agent. So Reek Woolen to Baltimore seems like a fit from both perspectives. Seattle may look at it and go, not sure if we're willing to pay you what's necessary. Baltimore will look at it and go, oh yeah, we're desperate for corners, and we have a habit of going in on maybe corners who are overheated as far as the free agency market goes. So we're in on it. Reek Woolen to Baltimore. Number 4, Cincinnati. Talk about teams that need a run game. I like Chase Brown and what he did this year, but he can't do it all by himself. And Brown with Samaje Perine as a 1-2 punch is not quite what you need, I think, to take some of the pressure off of Joe Burrow having to throw 40, 45 times a week. They need another established back to come in and maybe lead the way for Chase Brown as a 1A to Brown's 1B. Breece Hall to Cincinnati. Because while the Jets have plenty of cap space and they may just give Breece Hall whatever's necessary to keep him around, I could also see the Jets, being the Jets and screwing it up. And screwing up Breece Hall even more than they have already by allowing him to walk. So Breece Hall to Cincinnati, I think it's a fit for the Bengals because, like I said, it's that 1-2 punch in the backfield that so many teams have found to work over the last 5 years or so. You pair Hall and Brown, I like that as complements to everything they're doing in the passing game. Number 3, I don't know if it'll work given how, like I said, overheated his market is getting, at least according to the market value you find at places like SpotTrack, but Alec Pierce to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are desperate for wide receivers. Desperate. It's DK Metcalf and a bunch of blank spots on the depth chart. Alec Pierce gives you somebody to stretch the field, something they didn't have last year with George Pickens being traded to Dallas. They'd probably have to overpay to get it done, but they have the cap space to do it, especially if they restructure a deal or two. So Alec Pierce to the Steelers, even if they may have to overpay for him. Number 2, if the Seahawks are not going to tag him and they're going to let him test the open market, I know what you're going to say. Denver already has a pair of running backs, right? Harvey and Dobbins. But Kenneth Walker III to Denver is one I like because this gives them the guy. Neither Dobbins or Harvey, as good as Harvey looked at times last year, RJ Harvey is not, I don't think, a lead back. I think he'd be a great complement to a Kenneth Walker III, 1A, 1B, that 1-2 punch combo at running back that I described earlier when I talked about Breece Hall maybe going to Cincinnati. I think it would be great in Denver. And you talk about insulating Bo Nix even further. That's perfect. Give me more run game. Give me more defense. Give me more of what worked for Seattle this year, but in the AFC with Denver and the Broncos. Kenneth Walker III to Denver as my number 2. And yes, I included defense. But I've started to wonder if maybe, look, I understand Jaden Daniels belongs in bubble wrap at this point. And that's going to be the question probably for the rest of his career. But if Jaden Daniels stays healthy, I think Washington can quickly get back on track to where they were just a year ago, especially if they fix issues on defense, especially if they figure out how to rush the quarterback. Trey Hendrickson to the Washington Commanders is my number one best fit as we power rank our best NFL free agency fits. They've got a ton of cap space. They can give him whatever he wants. He can come in, give them the pass rush they need, and maybe balance that roster out a little bit more. Daniel stays healthy. Before you know it, they're competing with the Eagles for the NFC East Championship again and maybe going on a run in the playoffs. So Hendrickson to Washington, Walker the third to Denver, Pierce to Pittsburgh, Breece Hall to Cincy, and Reek Woolen to Baltimore. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I actually like the Reek Woolen to Baltimore one because someone similar they had success with is Marcus Peters, and I kind of feel like they're kind of the same player, just aggressive cornerbacks. Might be on the crazy side a little bit. So I like the Reek Woolen one to the Baltimore. Selfishly, I don't want to see Ken Walker go to Denver because I want to see Ken Walker on an offense that just allows him to use all of his skills. Pierce to the Steelers makes sense. Metcalf and him would be a good pairing. And Hendrickson to the Commanders. It just feels like the Commanders desperately need just to buy on some defensive players. And that would make a ton of sense. I think that'd be a good fit. So overall, a really good list. Selfishly, I would not want to see Breece Hall and Ken Walker to those spots for my fantasy teams. Selfishly.
Kenny?
Yeah, no, I was going to say the Breece Hall thing would be funny because if they do decide to pay for another running back and with those receivers and with Chase Brown already there, yes, without thinking about the defense, that would be totally Bengals. It would be fun to watch, but it would be totally Bengals. So love your list, though.
Totally Bengals is the best way to describe it. All in on offense. Who gives a rip about defense? And again, it's perfect from both organizations' point of view, I think, because it's just chef's kiss Jets to let Hall walk. And like you said, Kenny, perfect by the Bengals, staying totally on Brandon in character to add more on the offensive side of the ball, but not do anything on defense. I think the most interesting of all the ones that we threw out there between the three of us, Kenny, I really liked Kenneth Walker III to Houston. That's really intriguing to me. A guy who, like you said, Woody Marks is not that dude for an offense that thinks they can legitimately compete for an AFC championship. That, at the very least, puts Marks back where he belongs as a complement to a lead back. You stop worrying about having Nick Chubb carrying the ball more than 10, 15 times a game. And the Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill to Buffalo idea, Tyler.
That's the one.
That's the one, like I said, that just has Terry Pagula written all over it. He just walks into Brandon Beane's office and says, "What do you think about Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill?" And Brandon Beane does that thing where you have to pretend that the boss didn't just say something crazy. So you have to kind of compliment it while also making it clear that you're not a big fan of it. So you go, "Oh, that's interesting, boss. Yeah, you know what? We'll have to think about that." And then Pagula just says, no, we're signing them. And all hell breaks loose because that seems to be the way in Buffalo now, where Pagula calls shots that may not always make sense. And